News with your host, Patrick Wood. I am your co-host, Logan House. Today we have United Nations warns. United Nations warns it's going broke without U.S. financial support. What is a 15-minute city, and would you like to live in one? And AI bots are gaining on humans as source of web traffic. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm so happy that the United Nations is going to go broke.
Yeah. So they're admitting that they're going broke.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, there's probably another side of the story that we will talk about, I think. But don't be so glad that you missed the big picture. I don't think it's going to be going away necessarily. Certainly the globalist dream of domination of the world. You'll see, I think maybe we'll see some technocrats taking their place in the world, and they've already done that. But for instance, with the peace board, for instance, that the Trump just inaugurated, whatever, what he started in the Middle East, but now it's going to be replacing certain functions of the United Nations altogether. A private organization now taking over from an NGO, essentially. That's non-governmental organization. So when the United Nations say, well, you've cut us off from all these different initiatives, the money's slowing down. If we don't get more money from the other members of the society, well, we're going to go broke. I say, look, let them sell. If they want money, let them sell the 17 acres in Manhattan, upper Manhattan, where the United Nations building sits in the first place. They could sell the whole complex, move somewhere else. They'd be rich at that point, right? So yeah, they get their own money. That land was given to them in the first place by John D. Rockefeller Jr. And, you know, they just have been freeloading off of us, the taxpayer, ever since, and mostly in the control of people like the Rockefeller family. And we see all the damage they did along the way with Agenda 21 and 2030 Agenda, the new urban agenda, how they transformed the whole world into something that it never was in the first place. Good riddance to them. I'm sure a lot of Americans feel just that way. Good riddance to them.
Why should we be funding them? We're basically funding our own demise, right? Our own sovereignty.
Yes. This is the point. This is the point so many people have made over the years. These people are absolutely, positively death for capitalism and democracy. And why would we have them in their country in the first place? It makes no sense, especially at our expense.
And there's been many reports that they played a huge role in the invasion of the U.S. the last 4 years under Biden.
Well, certainly so. We know, for instance, that Peter Sutherland, the European head of the Trilateral Commission at one point, he was a special envoy to the United Nations for immigration in Europe. And he went to all the capitals in Europe and said, you're going to set quotas for people coming from the South. And, you can't, once you do it, you can't go back on it. And they enforced that along the way. He went out and browbeat them when things got really dicey in Europe with all the rapes and the no-go zones like that. So we see Peter Sutherland, a member of the Trilateral Commission, exercising authority, if you will. He had the jawbone for sure to talk all of Europe into basically being a sump for all of these people coming from the South. Same thing happened in America. He didn't come to America, however, but the same policy was executed in America. Well, this emanated, my certain observation is this emanated from the United Nations in the first place with the help of the Trilateral Commission. In other words, they were using the United Nations to get this policy in place. And they did it in our country as well. This just is plain as day that they were behind the whole thing.
Yep. Well, you have anything else you want to hit on this before we jump to the next story?
Oh boy!
We have the comments, right? We have you wanted to show some a comment made by Phil at the bottom of the article. You want me to read it? Read it.
Yeah, I like this comment. Just read the first paragraph, perhaps.
Phil says the UN was created with the energy of zeal for globalism. The zeal remains undiminished by globalism's contemporary torchbearers. This means the UN will not be allowed to die without something to replace it. The dream of world peace through world government, law, and money must have an administrative and organizational structure which the UN Charter describes. Technocracy Inc. and the book Technocracy Study Course predate the UN Charter. Both describe methods of administration and organization. Are they in concert or competition? Regardless, I believe the idealism contained in both will prevail since idealistic desire is centuries old. So basically, even if the UN dies, it's not the problem of globalism, the fight for globalism is not going to stop, and something will come in its place, whether that be technocracy or another globalist organization created.
Exactly. We need to ascertain what's the dog and what's the tail, I guess. The United Nations came after technocracy was formed. And that suggests perhaps that the United Nations may have been a tool of technocracy in the first place to get all this agenda in place, like Agenda 21, for instance, sustainable development, that's a resource-based economic system. This kind of suggests that, well, there was some mechanism that they used the United Nations to get their way to transition us into what Brzezinski called the technocratic era. Well, it just so happened that Brzezinski and Rockefeller teamed up in 1973, right? And that was based on Brzezinski's book, Between Two Ages, America's Role in the Technocratic Era. He was talking about technocracy. He wrote that book when he was at Columbia University. That's the same place where technocracy originated in the first place. And so when the Trilateral Commission came out and started talking about their new international economic order, underscore new, there's never been another new economic system in the world other than technocracy. It's created from scratch. So when all of a sudden, 9 months after the Trilateral Commission was formed, and that was early 74 at that point, all of a sudden, the United Nations passes a resolution, 3201, that proclaimed this is going to be the new international economic order. That same language, just skip just a few months. Then after that, you see all this nonsense coming out with Agenda 21 finally in 1992. Well, was that all in view with the new international economic order? Absolutely was. There's no other way that you could cast this, especially with these resolutions that were passed in 1974 by the United Nations. David Rockefeller put his thumb on the button to make sure that the United Nations did his biddings. And now, when the technocracy crowd have risen up in Washington, D.C., they don't need them anymore. This is very thin, but Phil has figured this out, I think. Yeah, where's the horse and where's the cart?
Yeah, he also says that he's been waiting for this day to come for years, and rather than feeling celebratory, he's skeptical. And he's got a point. I mean, globalism is not going to die when the UN if the UN falls. It's still they'll come back in another form, one way or the other. And
The form is technocracy.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, there's no other force on the planet at this point that can compete with technocracy. Communism is on the way out. Marxism, the cultural Marxism, is on the way out right now. Everybody's dissing it everywhere. The government is doing it, even in Europe, and Marxism won't be talked, and communism won't be talked about in 10 years from now. If we get, I don't think we're going to get that far, but this is going to be out at this point. Technocracy is the only force in the planet that's going to take over everything in sight with AI and the other tools that they have at their disposal.
And surprisingly, technocracy actually has pretty big support, even within younger conservatives. As we talked about on Tuesday, Mark Mitchell did a poll asking conservatives and liberals who are under 40 if they support AI in government, writing legislation and other stuff, and they overwhelmingly supported it.
I know, absolutely crazy. But they're ignorant for sure. They don't see what happened before, and they don't see what's going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. They're just looking at the near term. They're myopic, in other words. And
they hear all this news all the time about these corrupt politicians and corrupt leaders, and they don't see another solution. I know. It's almost like it was manufactured, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So,
well, I don't like these corrupt politicians either. I don't think anybody does it. But, in 1932, when Technocracy is at Columbia University, everybody in society at that point hated the politicians. They blamed the politicians for everything that was happening in the Great Depression, and probably rightly so. But they were searching for another answer, and it was Technocracy for a time. Then it died out, and here we are today. So.
All right, well, we got to go to a break real quick. We'll be back in just a moment with some more stories. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
All right, welcome back from the break. Next up we have, what is a 15-minute city and would you like to live in one? So Patrick, what is a 15-minute city? I think a lot of the audience knows, but in short, what would entail a 15-minute city?
Take a pen and a string, or get a compass. Some people will remember what a compass is, and when you use it to draw circles and stuff like that, right? So get a compass or a pen with string on it, and figure out what's 15-minute radius, if you will, and then draw a circle around your house, and that will be your border in the future. And if you go outside that border, you're going to be penalized. If you stay within that border, everything will be fine. 15 minutes is not very much in modern urban life, for sure. Maybe it's maybe 10 miles, 5 to 10 miles in a normal city. That's how much it would take you to get to the border of that perimeter or that radius. And the idea is, well, we want you to give up your car. We want you to go with bicycles, using public transport. We'll provide nice scooters for you or whatever. And maybe you can walk to the store instead of using your car. They basically want to take your cars away altogether. So the idea is you live in this self-contained, defined space where you'll have all your doctors, all of your shopping, your groceries, and your other stuff that you depend on, whatever it is. And the idea is to just contain you basically into this space. Well, you know what? This came out from the United Nations. This is their program. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that started this nonsense about net zero and carbon, the war on carbon. And we have to take into account global warming, of course, because we're the ones that are destroying the planet with our actions, and that's what they say. Well, their answer is, well, we're just going to create these 15-minute cities so you stay where we want you to stay, period.
And this kind of relates back to what we were just talking about with the UN and technocracy, because even if the UN goes out, it looks like now the technocrats are very into 15-minute cities and creating these little tech hubs, right?
You would think so. That's the important dot to put on here to the picture. This is a technocratic program from the get-go. Mm-hmm. This is social engineering on steroids. And when you read this article was written by Ian Davis, by the way, from the UK. It's a great article. He really understands technocracy, and he's writing about this in the context of technocracy. But this is one of those programs that the technocrats came up with along the way when they were working with the United Nations. And it's still with us at this point. It's not going to go away. The United Nations could declare bankruptcy this summer, and this would not stop the 15-minute city movement around the world. No way, because technocracy has taken over the movement. So, the idea, of course, is to monitor you to death, cameras everywhere, sensors everywhere. And your iPhone or your Android phone will be monitoring your travels as well. And if you violate your perimeter, why you're going to get some punishment. Now you might get some credits, if you will, maybe a few a month to go outside of that zone. But if you exceed that limit, you're going to be punished one way or another. And this is exactly what this article brings out. The 15-minute cities have been established in the UK especially, and they're already sick of them. They're just absolutely sick. And this is coming from in America now. And people say, well, I don't know where 15-minute cities are in America. Come to Mesa, Arizona. Little sleepy Mesa, Arizona. And Arizona, we're the hub of boredom, probably in the country. We have 15-minute cities being erected right now, thanks to the city council here. They just decided that's what we're going to do. They have them. They're doing it in Tempe, Arizona, as well, just right next to Mesa. So this is sneaking into all around our country, in big cities and little cities. Actually, Mesa is a pretty big city. But here's the deal. You can have multiple 15-minute cities within another larger city. For instance, Phoenix, Arizona. That's a big geographically, that's a lot of space. So if you draw a bunch of circles, like 15-minute circles all over Phoenix, you might come up with maybe, I don't know, just say 15 or 20 different circles that you can define or declare to be, well, that's a 15-minute city right there. That's your area now. Don't go out of it. Don't go over to Mesa. Don't go over to Scottsdale. Don't go to Tempe. Don't go to Glendale or Sun City, wherever. No, you stay right where we say you should stay. and you go out of that zone, you're going to be penalized.
Yeah, and it's not just Arizona. I think Florida is leading the charge pretty heavily in 15-minute
Yes.
cities.
Absolutely. This is why every community should appoint a volunteer. Nobody can be paid for this, but somebody to be volunteer to be a spotter at the city council level, to go to every single meeting, read every single document that they're inducted in to their orbit, and report that the activity to the people in the community, so they get wind when this stuff comes into their city. In Mesa, Arizona, for instance, nobody was consulted at all in Mesa. I guarantee it. They had no public discussion, not openly. And what's coming in here now is that, well, it's just voluntary. We're just not going to. We're not going to enforce it, but it's going to be a voluntary thing. Nonsense. This is how it gets established in the first place. All these programs that came in from the United Nations under NGOs like the ICLEI organization that brought sustainable development into every city in America. Basically, there's a few places maybe where it didn't, but at this point, every city in America has been touched by sustainable development in one shape or form or another. Now the 15-minute cities are just coming in and being overlaid over that whole thing. And so, you start with one and then you spread. You get one established. Doesn't matter how big your city is. You might live in New York City or, Memphis, Tennessee, I don't know. But you just define the space you want to corral and just declare it. We're gonna make this 15-minute city. It sounds really cool, right? But now you're gonna have bike paths. You're gonna have walking sections of the city, traffic calming all over the place. If they can get you just to do the bus or Uber or some other form of transportation, Waymo. This is very popular right now in Tempe, Arizona, with the university there especially. They're all over these Waymo cars are all over the place at this point.
And that's the self-driving cars.
Exactly. And students just dial them up. They just have their smartphone, the app there, and it just touch a button. 2 minutes later, a Waymo shows up to take them somewhere. They don't need cars. In their mind, why would we want a big old clunky car when we just usher up a Waymo for a ride? That makes some sense, but you know what? This is not the model of freedom and liberty that we expect in America.
And a lot of these cities, they're not enforcing any type of, movement controls yet. But that is something that would definitely come into effect, especially once digital IDs and stuff like that are put in. Then they can easily track you and figure out where you've been going. And if you go outside the 15-minute city, then I don't know if you get, some type of tax extra fee put on to you or what they would do.
Yep. In the UK, at this point, you can be fined, literally fined a set amount of money for exceeding your trips outside your 15-minute city, your zone. It's kind of it's not accurate to say 15-minute city because it's a city within a city, by and large, right? So you don't say, well, the whole city isn't a 15-minute city. That would not make sense. But when they declare a certain area, define it by the travel, how much time it takes to get out of that zone, well, then it becomes a 15-minute city.
So
but
it could be like
multiple.
It could be like a little community inside of Miami, say.
Yes.
But they make sure there's everything you need within 15 minutes, and there's a line. Basically, they create a line where if you go outside of that line, you're still in Miami, but you're out of your 15-minute community that they've created to put you in.
Exactly. And you have to remember this whole plan of 15-minute cities It's very detailed, and it has other things that get phased in along the way. Now, the UK has mastered this at this point. They've already instituted the fines and the other types of control. This is coming to America just as certain as I'm sitting here, because that's the plan, the architectural plan for the 15-minute cities in the first place, is to have that level of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the purpose.
Yeah.
All right, we're all out of time. We didn't get to the last story, but we'll be back next week.
That's okay.
Go to technocracy.news to read all the articles and more, and then worldviewtube.com to watch us. Till then, take care.
Do you know about glutathione? You can't live without it. It's a naturally occurring ingredient in your body. But guess what? It starts to decrease around the age of 20. You need glutathione. There are over 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. It detoxes your cells. And we know there are toxins everywhere. In fact, studies have shown glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Check it out at swishforlife.com. You just put a small 2 caps in your mouth, swish it for about 3 minutes. Then you can swallow it or spit it out. Studies show that this is in your bloodstream within 90 seconds. It's better than an IV. That'll cost you about $250, and it's broken down. You swish with it, it is in your body in 90 seconds in its totality. Glutathione, you need it to live. Swishforlife.com. Swishforlife.com. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. The dollar is dying. It's going down, and inflation is soaring. Are you prepared to lose through inflation your life saving, your purchasing power? I don't think you have to. I would urge you to go right now to worldviewgold.com. Worldviewgold.com. Get the free packet of information available. Because you know what? I've been working with this company for about 17 years, and I trust them. Now, look, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. And my opinion is you should do your own homework and your own due diligence. And I think that starts with getting the free, no obligation packet of information on how to put gold into your IRA, how to acquire physical gold or silver, or what is known as numismatic, 1933 and older. Education is crucial, and it starts with this free packet at worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, worldviewgold.com.
Welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report on this, what is it today? February 5th, 2026. I wanted to say 2025. I'm joined now by my co-host, Jim Paff of theconservativecaucus.com. Jim, how are you doing?
Doing well. I threw your centering off there because I had to adjust my thing. Sorry. But doing well. How are you doing?
Good. It's warming up here, and all the ice that we had the past 2 weeks is melting. So it's finally opening back up.
People don't realize how challenging it is in the South when you get the kind of icing that was there. But they learned it this time. That was a massive storm.
Yeah. I think Mississippi, I think the power is mainly restored for most people, but I'm sure they're still dealing with the effects of it.
Absolutely.
We had President Trump this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast, and he touched on some issues. We have plenty of clips to play. Scott Bessent today in front of the Senate with some exchange with Elizabeth